Welcome to my lesson on algebra, equations of lines, slope, and intercepts. Really what I want to point out on this lesson here is that we're really going to take a big shortcut. An equation such as this, y is equal to 2x minus 3, is the equation of a line. And we know that because we have two variables here. Neither one of them are squared. That's typically all we need to know in order to know that we have a line. For different points that are identified by a unique x and y, we would be looking at different points on this line. What I want to do is use a skill that you've used before, and that is evaluating this expression here for different variables of x to find out what y would be equal to in order to look at a graph. The ones that we want to take a look at are the ones that are nearest our origin here. So what I would encourage you to do is to create a t-chart and just plug in, brainstorm different values for x. And what we're going to do is we're going to plug in at 0 for x and find out what y is equal to. So 2 times 0, that's going to drop out, and y automatically becomes negative 3. When I plug in 1 for x, 2 times 1 is 2. 2 minus 3 would be negative 1. When I plug in 2 for x, 2 times 2 is 4. 4 minus 3 would be 1. When I plug in 3 for x, 2 times 3 is 6. 6 minus 3 is 3. Okay, so once I've done that, I have different point values here. So I could look at this when I put it in parentheses and point notation. I'm hoping you'll recognize that, hey, we've got some points that we can plot here. So I'm going to go ahead and start with this one, 0, negative 3. So I'm going to start at the origin, which it doesn't move right or left because it's on the origin. But the first coordinate is 0. Would be negative 3 for the y coordinate. So we'll come down here. Next point, we're going to go, starting at the origin, over 1 and down 1. For the next point, we have 2, 1. That's starting at the origin. I'm going to go in the positive direction on the x-axis 2 units, and then up 1. Okay, now I'm going to go over 3 and up 3. So hopefully you can see that we've got a line going on here. Maybe not the perfect line, but we've got a line going on here. And this one looks like it rises going left to right pretty steeply. What we can do is we can take a look at the difference. How did I get from this point to this point? And it doesn't matter what points I grab here, but how did I get from 2 to 3? I added 1. So my change in y, or change in x, is plus 1. How did I get from 1 to 3? Looks like I've added 2. So again, I'm going to write my slope is change in y. Just a quick review, change in x, and change means the difference between the two, or between the two y variables. So I have a change of 2 over a change of 1, so I have a slope of 2 here. And yep, it looks like I can go up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1, and I keep landing on that line. So in this lesson, I just really want to give you an alternative method for plotting a line here, and I'm just using the opportunity to review slope, calculating slope. Also, I want to take a look. This point right here is a very unique point, 0, negative 3, because that is our y-intercept. This is where it crosses the y-axis. Now it looks to me that it probably crosses the x-axis somewhere about 1.5, 0, but this would be somewhere in here, and I haven't calculated that. We don't need to worry about that. I'm just reviewing that. Okay, and this one here, I've created my t-chart, and I'm probably doing overkill. As long as you have 2 and maybe a third point to check yourself, you really don't need to check 4 points. But I'm going to go ahead and plug in 0 for x. So that would drop off entirely, so y would be equal to 7 when x is equal to 0. When x is equal to 1, we're going to have 7 minus 3 would be 4. When x is equal to 2, that term evaluates as 6, so I'd have 7 minus 6 would be 1. And when x is 3, that term becomes negative 9. 7 minus 9 would be negative 2. So again, I've got 4 points here that I can graph. Okay, this one is over 0, up 7, 4, I need to add a point there. Okay, this one is over 1 up 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. This one is over 2 and up 1. This one is over 3 and down 2. So yeah, look, oops, I'm sorry, down 2 here. So again, it looks like I've got a line here. Now again, this one falls going left to right, so I know that it's going to have a negative slope. But I can grab any 2 points and find my change. How did I get from this x to this x? It looks like I added 1. How did I get from this y to this y? It looks like I subtracted 3. Again, my slope is change in y, which would be negative 3, over change in x, which is going to be 1, so it's going to have a negative 3 slope. That makes sense. I'm going to go down 3 and over 1, down 3 and over 1, down 3 and over 1 to keep landing on a point on that line. Okay, again, this point right here is a very significant point. That is our y-intercept. So I have a y-intercept here and here. It looks to me like this probably crosses the x-axis somewhere between 2 and 3. I'm just pointing that out. Don't really have to calculate it here. Okay, in this problem, I've plugged in, again, I'm doing the overkill, doing 4 points. When I plug in 0 for x, y becomes negative 1. When I plug in 1 for x, y becomes 0. 1 minus 1 would be 0. When I plug 2 for x, 2 minus 1 would be 1. When I plug in 3 for x, 3 minus 1 would be 2. So I can plot these points. Over 0, down 1 would be our first point. Over 1, up 0 would be our second point. Over 2, up 1 would be our next point from the origin. Over 3, up 2. I've got 4 points there pretty close together. Okay, again, I can look at my slope. Again, pick any 2 points and figure out how you got from one x-coordinate to the other. How did I get from 2 to 3? Looks like I added 1. How did I get from 1 to 2? Looks like I've added 1 there as well. So change in y would be 1, change in x would be 1 as well. So this has a slope of 1. Yep, it looks like we go up 1, over 1, up 1, over 1, up 1, over 1. Okay, and this point right here is our y-intercept. This is where it crosses the y-axis. And that would be the very first point that we graphed. And we do have our x-intercept plotted here. This crossed the x-axis at 1, 0. So here we have our x-intercept. Okay, hopefully that was a good review of some of the things that you needed to cover for x and y-intercept as well as slope, but also taking a look at how you can take an equation of a line, and you really don't have to know any fancy formulas for plotting the line. You can just use your skills where you are evaluating different values of x. Make them up, plug them in, create your t-chart, and plot the points. Thanks for joining me on this lesson.